Forget everything out there. Forget how cool your freaking product is. At the end of the day, the North Star should be the cloud consumption. If you are driving cloud consumption, that's where you're going to get stickiness. That's where you're going to have the most incentive to engage from a co-sell motion. Because every seller, account manager, the systems engineer, the consulting engineers, all these guys are getting paid on consumption.
Join our 5-week course on cloud marketplaces and learn how to tap into the $250 billion spend that enterprises have committed to AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Discover the future of go-to-market with Roman. During weekly sessions, you'll learn how to leverage this fast-growing channel and network with industry experts and partnership leaders. We'll dive into marketplace strategies, internal buy-in, building relationships with the cloud, and mastering co-sell. Join our upcoming cohort.
I think Bader doesn't need an introduction either. He is currently ecosystem chief in a company called Vectara, and he was VP of platform and technology partner ecosystem in Twilio. And before that, he was global head strategic technology partnerships in Google, worked with GCP data protection ecosystem strategy. And most recently, he was voted as the most inspiring partnership leader by the entire conference. I'm personally excited to hear from Bader.
I really have a conviction that when done right, ecosystem partnerships do become the enabler of growth and scale. And I added this quote to this presentation because it's important to understand when we're talking about marketplaces, it's about creating an economy around the platform that they created, be it GCP, be it AWS. The value of a platform at the end of the day is not what I do with it and what revenue I come at with it or generate from it. Yes, that's important, but it's the value that gets created around this platform that I just created. That's the point of a cloud platform. And that's what these cloud providers ultimately enabled for us. So when you combine the power of a platform, the power of an ecosystem, and you connect those dots together the right way, that's where you capitalize on this opportunity. I'm not going to really go into the market opportunity. I think Jay covered that piece of it a lot, but I want to emphasize one point on Gen AI, because there's an economy being built around this and a platform economy around in the marketplaces as well. I mean, you might have seen the McKinsey report that talks about the impact, the productivity impact. It's literally going to be trillions of dollars, 4.4 trillion annually worth of value to the global economy. But the really important takeaway here is that impact roughly doubles when we're embedding Gen AI into software. So imagine, I think maybe it was you, Alex, that mentioned, right? Now I have, my solution on this marketplace and this other marketplace, and all of these things get intertwined, and maybe we create channel conflict. Yes, that's a very important point to make sure you don't get yourself into. But the idea here is that if you're a solution, if your company, you're providing a solution that ultimately embeds, or you embed your solution into something else, into another software stack, and you also get listed on the marketplace, now you're creating a flywheel effect ultimately in the ecosystem. For yourself and for the company that you're embedding, or vice versa, right? Depending on who we're talking about. So this opportunity really now becomes much more significant, in my opinion, on marketplaces, because you have these language models that are out there also allowing, again, as a platform, they're allowing, AWS is allowing, GCP is allowing, Azure is allowing customers to now go and build on top of their own platform using these models that now get listed onto the marketplaces. So I just want to emphasize the importance of, it's not just my SaaS solution that gets listed on the marketplace, but there's now an evolution of language models and other embedded solutions that get listed onto the marketplace. Start thinking about how do you capitalize on that from a joint go-to-market perspective. You look at the incentive model real quickly. I mean, I don't know where, how much you guys have worked with the cloud providers directly, but something I want to make sure that everybody just re-emphasize: forget everything out there. Forget how cool your freaking product is. At the end of the day, the North Star should be the cloud consumption. If you are driving cloud consumption, that's where you're going to get stickiness. That's where you're going to have the most incentive to engage from a co-sell motion. Because every seller, every cloud seller, be it the AE, or the account manager, the systems engineer, the consulting engineers, all these guys are getting paid on consumption. Now, each one of the cloud providers has in their comp plan, has, they slice and dice their compensation to reward, give increment rewards, be it, spiffs or be it actual quota retirement, on their comp plan for ISV solutions that get sold, whether or not they drive consumption. But where you're going to get the most traction is if your solution drives cloud consumption. We'll talk about that here in just a second. So keep that in mind, right? Because these cloud sellers are tied to consumption. That's their biggest chunk, and it's important. Have that conversation with your cloud, ISV, the cloud BDM that you're talking to, or the cloud PDM, whoever is managing your partnership. Have a conversation. Be like, hey, help me understand, what does your compensation plan look like today? What are the splits? And most of the time they'll share it with you, especially if you've built that trust with them. So knowing the cloud salesperson is important, because there's a cloud seller that's selling to you and that's vested in you and what you consume as a company, as a partner in your own cloud instances. But then you have the co-sell part, which is your partner sales manager. Think of them as your channel person. They're the people tied to the sales teams, working and evangelizing and amplifying the ISVs that make sense to go and be part of certain customer opportunities. So good to know that PSM. The PDM, the partner development manager, most likely this is your alliances person that's tied to you as a partner. You want to make sure you stay close to them and understand how they are motivated, but they are there to help broker and open doors for you. And then if you are lucky and you also have a cloud marketplace BDM that's helping you do that tactical ground, street level blocking and tackling, even better. And that comes with, again, how much consumption you drive, how much momentum you drive, etc. And last but not least is the ISV programs. I mean, you look at like AWS, obviously you need to go through the FTR process, make sure your solution is technically approved. You get on the marketplace, great. But then, if you're not driving consumption directly into the customer's own account, again, we'll dig into this here in a second. You want to make sure you participate in some of their other programs like ISV Accelerate, or at Google, I believe it was, I don't even know if it's called that anymore or not, but it's called ISV Connect, ISV SaaS Connect, where you're able to register a deal with that cloud provider, with the end customer's cloud sales AE, and engage, and they get a spiff, they get some sort of reward for your solution. I'm going to pause because the meat of this is really on the next slide, on why knowing these individuals and these dynamics are really important, and what programs to tap into beyond just getting listed on the market. There was this whole the comment, I can't remember who made it, but just a bit ago, about instilling the fear of missing out, right? To go and justify the opportunity internally if you're struggling with your CEO or your CPO or whoever it may be, R&D that's going to support you in getting the marketplace. Yes, the fear factor sometimes works. Now, depending on where you are, as far as maturity of the company, the size of the company, that might not matter. But tie it back to revenue. Guys, we're missing on commits. It's funny, when I was at GCP, we were kind of building the go-to-market engine as we were flying. It was like building the ship as you're steering it. And sure, we had the cloud marketplace and all of that. And what we initial thought was this was a self-serve, small companies would come in and buy. No big enterprise cares. Where it became sticky was when a customer came to us, a huge customer, one of these big financial institutions worldwide, came and said, hey, I have a huge commit with you. By the way, I'm blocked. I can't come in until you fix this one specific, get me this one specific integration with GCP from a data protection perspective. But also I want to buy that on the marketplace. And it was in the multitude of millions of dollars. So now an enterprise customer cares. So basically, in addition to the fear of God around missing out, FOMO is great. Revenue is better. You're going to miss out on commits. Enterprises have these set up with these cloud providers. I don't need to negotiate deals. I don't need to do any of that mess. It's there. Take advantage of those, and those usually accelerate deal opportunity to actually make the integrations happen in your company. You got to understand how your solution is set up in just as your solution, as your platform, how you architected your solution, because there are different ways for you to deploy onto the marketplace. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to list on the marketplace. Great. How? Are you there as a SaaS? Are you there as deployed as a VPC? Are you some sort of mix? I mean, I'm only focusing on these three because those are the main three buckets of deployments. They used to allow like what I used to call dummy listings, and most cloud providers have stopped that. If you're not driving consumption directly, somehow, some variation of these three, you're not going to get listed on the marketplace anymore. Azure was actually at a point where they were about to delist a bunch of partners because they were not tying back to consumption. I was one of those partners at Twilio, right? So let's unpack this a bit more. So as a SaaS, again, regardless if you call yourself a SaaS solution or not, how you've architected your platform is what I'm referring to here. So if I'm deploying as a SaaS, means I take my product as is, it sits in my own cloud instance, right? Let's say I'm Twilio, let's say I'm Vectara, let's say I'm whatever, right? It's sitting in my own cloud instance. So both the data plane and the control plane are driving consumption in my own partner bucket, right? So when a customer buys my solution now in that SaaS deployment model, they're just driving consumption in my instance, in my bucket. Now you might wonder, well, why am I not getting traction with the sell with AEs? Why do they not care? Well, it's because of that point. You have to now think about how do you now help your solution that's driving consumption in your own bucket? How is it helping influence consumption in the customer's bucket? Right? That's an important one to figure out. That's where a lot of SaaS companies get challenged in driving consumption or driving co-sell motion with the cloud providers. Because who cares at this point is your own sales AE at that cloud provider, because you're just driving that revenue for them, which means you now have a person and champion that to capitalize on, to engage with, and have them be your sell with almost person. You're almost your cloud BD person that they go in and they evangelize, they advocate for you, they get you certain one-on-one meetings, trainings, etc. They're your person that you want to go and say, hey, the more you help me, Mr. and Mrs. Cloud AE, for me, my sales AE, the more it's going to drive consumption. Let's go build our go-to-market strategy based on that. Now, that's SaaS. VPC is I'm taking my solution, my product, and it gets deployed in the customer's bucket. That is the nirvana here. If your solution is architected in that fashion, you're golden, because now you have every one of your sell to AEs to end customers now becomes your sell with AE for your solution. They're now more than happy to engage because you're driving consumption in their own customers bucket, meaning you get that top line quota relief retirement happening. And a hybrid is when you kind of split. The data plane goes onto the customer bucket, control plane still stays in your bucket. Now you have both people kind of caring, and you have to align that way.